Hi. It's Ana, by the way. Sorry to be a bitch.
I thought it was.
It's fine. Everybody calls me Ana, but you're good. I'm not offended.
That was going to be my question before we got rolling. Be like, is there anything you need to know? Because I'm probably f***ing up your name. I corrected somebody for saying my name one time. Where they could, obviously, there's only one way to say Mark.
Yeah, what did they say?
Well, they said Mark, but I just went I'm like, it's with a C, not with a K. And they're like,
that's awesome.
It didn't register for a couple of seconds, and they're like, you can see him like working it out in their head. It's like, how else can you say Mark? Anna.
Hey.
Excuse me. I
Mark.
gotta do that over. I said it wrong. I can't believe I did. Like, don't
Mark
say
with a C.
I'm like, don't say Anna. Anna.
It's totally fine.
Anna,
Mark,
thanks for meeting us out here.
thanks for having me.
So it's kind of funny. So we're meeting at Clark's, which, by the way, thank you, Clark.
Thank you, Clark.
Clark was one of the first people to reach out to you when you came out for Keith Rhodes' episode, which is how all of this came about.
Yeah, absolutely. That event was a huge stepping stone for me.
So I want to make sure that I got it right. So up until at that point, when you had come through Keith's store and showed up for his Order Fire, you were only doing you were professionally doing it for...
When I met you?
Yeah.
Yeah, about a year.
Hey.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Let's see these things right here. Thank you very much.
The restaurant accounts I had were probably only 8 to 9, and now the one event I did with you guys, just coming in on a whim, opened up 5 accounts instantly for me, and now I've got 28. And Charlotte is my favorite place to deliver, just because it's...
So wait, how many accounts do you have in Charlotte overall?
When everyone orders, I've got about 17.
Holy shit.
So more than half of my accounts are Charlotte.
And it doubled what you had at the time in a whole
Yeah.
other city.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, granted, we also have a population of over 1 million, so I mean, it
That
stands,
helps.
Yeah.
I
without
think
a
you guys
doubt.
just exceeded San Francisco, or like you're as big as San Francisco now. Ew.
That's kind of awesome.
That was a cool fact.
We are out in the marsh today at Masonboro Island, collecting some beautiful, salty, briny oysters. That's my favorite place to get them from. I like those little meaty mud rocks. Gotta eat one. Quality control.
So tell me a little bit about what you're doing exactly.
I operate Shellem Seafood. I opened it about 2 years ago, and I harvest per order for chefs only. I was doing home deliveries when I first started, but now it's specifically for restaurants. And I harvest the day before or the day of that I make the delivery, ensuring that it's super, super fresh. And it's only been passed through my hand, so I trust my product. And it's custom to each chef. They can do bigger clams, bigger mussels, and by the way, it's just clams, oysters, mussels, and then stone crab.
So your business is like more than tripled basically since we had first met.
Yeah, in the past year. Yeah.
But the thing is, it's not like you're out there. It's not like you're a farmer where you bought more land.
Right.
And it's not like you're doing aquaculture where you're seeding more beds.
Right.
You're just going out and grabbing these things wild. So how are you able to maintain that? Like, is it?
Well, I'm out there 6 days a week already. Can't harvest on Sunday in North Carolina, but even on Sunday, I'll just go scout. So, and I don't over harvest one area in particular, so I can come back next year to that same area. But the amount of mussels are always predominant, which is fantastic for me because that's my number one seller. Oyster season can get a little tricky. The wild beds with other fishermen get really picked over, and you really have to trek deep into the marsh. So I'll look at like Google Maps, or actually NCDMF, Division of Marine Fisheries, has a closure map that I check every single day because sometimes there's sewage spills, there could be emergency situations, and then if we get over 1.5 inches of rain, everything's closed. So I check that every day, but it gives you this great view of the marsh and to some spots that you can get back to. Those are just really intense days when you're like way deep in there and coming out with like 40 pounds in each hand. And I just love it so much though that it's so rewarding.
What makes it so rewarding for you?
Giving it to the chefs and seeing what they do with it. And then
Is that just a scripted answer or is that legitimate?
It's legitimate.
Okay.
I fucking love it. I love the restaurant world. I've like, no matter how exhausted I am, by the time I'm done delivering, I have like this whole like electrified feeling of satisfaction, and I only work with people that appreciate it. I'm not giving it to everybody.
Right.
It has to be specific because I can only do so much myself. And I only work with people that love the fact that it was in the water 24 hours ago.
Right.
Yeah, I just get so freaking excited about it. Sorry.
No, it's fine. When you're looking at your business and you go, okay, I opened up, and I feel pretty confident if I go, when you first started this, when we met, there was no way that you would have thought that you would be where you are this quick right now.
No
I mean,
way.
in your wildest dreams, of course, you're like, oh, I'm going to do this, people are going to come. But then there's the reality of like, after a month of doing something, you go, okay, this is sort of the pace of life. And then things for you went relatively quick.
Yeah.
And are you at a point where you look at it and you go like, how do I maintain the excitement that you have with everything that you're doing and sustain growth to make it, something that's long-term and profitable all the way?
That's something that
Do you
I
struggle
toy
with
with
that?
all the time. Because sometimes, I have my accounts, and there's some weeks, because the whole business is based around Mother Nature, and there's some weeks I can't deliver every single item to each chef, and that freaks me out. But it's good for me to relax. And sometimes I feel like I'm like at a plateau because I can only do so much. So my next step will be a driver so I can fish. But because I love the relationships with the chef and the buzz that delivering directly to them gives me, I'm gonna always deliver in person at least once a month, and then fish 6 days a week instead of like every time I come to Charlotte, it cuts off at least 2 days of fishing for me. So that'll open up some more doors, and that's the next step in my mind.
And then the step after that is somebody else to fish, so that way you can
Fish with me. I never want to leave the marsh though. I just love it. That's the core of why this began is the happiness I feel in nature. I love also being alone, and being alone in nature when you're out there, especially in the wintertime, there's no one out there. And you also, I feel like a badass too when I see another fisherman. I'm like, fuck yeah.
right.
Little pigtails are like, that's not a dude. It makes me feel really good. But in order for it to be a long-term business, I have to hire some folks. So
Hardly any shell in there. Little shell. So salty. Tastes like the ocean. Oh my God, it's so good.
All right, so you're not from North Carolina.
I'm from Tennessee
I was gonna say,
originally.
you're not even coastal.
Go
And I had
Vols.
said earlier, I do this thing in the beginning where I talk with people and I was like no discernible accent.
Yeah, no, I
Not
was
Tennessee,
in
not New York, not even North Carolina.
Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, New York. Hopped around.
It's weird, you can hear a little bit of Ohio here and there, not prevalent.
Like an O thing.
Yeah.
If I drink, I get a little tucky. I get a little southern.
So what brought you, how did you end up from Kentucky to New York? What were you doing? What's your origin story on that?
I actually started out acting and modeling, which is fulfilled me for a bit, but it was just not my thing. But I went on tour with Disney internationally for a year when I was 12, and then moved up to New York City when I was 13 and lived there every summer by myself from 13 to 17, and then moved there full time. Hustled in the city till I was about 21 or so, and then that's when I got into photography, just because you got to make money somehow in New York. You're like, sure, I'll give that a try. But an agency in Wilmington hired me to do headshots and comp cards for some actors and models, and they put me up in this gorgeous beach house that took my breath away, and I just felt this crazy connection with the water. I had never seen water like that. I would sunbathe on the Upper East Side on the river in New York and
it's
be like,
completely different.
this is nice. But then I got this whole different vibe actually being at the beach, and I was like, I need to be here. So I got rid of what I had, which was not much, and bought a car and moved to Wilmington, and I got a bartending job at Tower 7, and just really just felt so connected. And you know when things fall in place, that you're just like, God, I need to be here.
So how many people are out there on a given day?
On a nice day, there's
Yeah,
a lot
that
of
are-
recreational fishermen, and a lot of there's several boats that I see all the time. And we haven't met yet, but we just recognize each other. But there's on cold days, maybe I'll see one other person. on nice days, like 5 or 6. But then you got all your tourists in the summertime, and I get a little chip on my shoulder out there.
Do you guys are you territorial? Like, are you guys? Do you have spots that you prefer?
Crabbers are for sure, and then I have my own personal favorite spots. But if someone's there, I'll let them do it. It's just like a mutual respect across the board. If someone's in an area that I needed that day, I'll be like, well, now again, I have to figure out how to make this happen in a new way, and find a new spot. But not everybody does that. There's been some times in the marsh where, and as a female, it's pretty scary. I've been alone, and there's people that come up to you, a bunch of dudes. It's just a freaky feeling. So I have a machete on my boat, and I have a knife with me, and I've got my clam rake, and then my little hory knife that I muscle with, and I've only felt like truly afraid in duck season when people are shooting guns right on the islands at sunrise when I'm harvesting. I'm like, I can't get shot out here, man. This sucks. And then when like a hillbilly looking dude comes up to you and you're alone in the marsh is pretty frightening, just because I think I'm strong, but
Right. That's not the time that you want to find out.
no.
Like, so that way you can assess it for later.
You
'cause you
don't
might
need
not
to
be
do
able
that. Yeah,
Well,
it's
usually-
frightening.
So when are they coming up to you because you're working a spot that they wanted to, or are they just like, hey, what are you doing out here, Missy?
I've had one guy come up and actually start clamming right next to me. And I was like, this motherfucker. He pissed me off. It pissed me off so much. And I was just like, all right, we're just going to let this happen. And he's like, I've been meaning to get back here in this area to clam. I'm like, awesome, cool. So I just left. I was like, fine, you can have it. I know they're good. I know there's clams back here. I've been back here for 3 hours, but I'm not, again, no street cred and a female. So I'm like, fine, I'll go find another spot.
What is your average harvest?
I've done 2,500 mussels.
What is that relative to weight-wise, would you say?
It's 10 pounds for 100 count. So I sell them in 100 count bags. So with a commercial license, you can do 5 bushels a day. And I've only done that a couple times.
Could you have pulled more that day, or was that pretty much?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you find a good bed, it's so exciting. But after the hurricanes, that changed a lot. The clams have changed since Dorian even, but after Florence, like the marsh, everything about the marsh was different.
Is it returning, or do you think and I'm going to use the word permanent only for our lifetime,
Right.
as a thing, not as a...
No, you just have to find new ways of doing it. They just move. And some of a lot of oysters died, that there was so much toxicity after Florence that farmers, wild harvesters lost a lot. But then we just have to, just like every day with Mother Nature, you just got to find a new way of doing it and making it work, which is also probably what I love about it, because it's like, all right, we're gonna make this happen no matter what.
Yeah, and yesterday's plan of attack or yesterday's skill set doesn't necessarily apply to today's. You can
Absolutely.
utilize it, but you can't count on it.
Absolutely, yeah. And then the wind. I mean, there's so many factors that come into play with harvesting, especially wild. Like farming is so different. You can rely on it being there, but like this week, I was harvesting in waist deep water, and it was like 15-mile-per-hour winds, so the water's murky, so I can't see the oyster beds, but I'm on them. So then I reach down and
Can't see the sharks in murky water either.
can't see the sharks in murky water. I'd be all right with a shark bite, I think. I don't want to invite it, but if it happened, it'd be badass.
Okay.
Be like, that's that crazy fisherwoman that got bit by the shark.
True.
No, I don't want that. I really don't want that. But it can be a big challenge, and I'll go out there no matter what the weather's doing, because it's my job and it's my name on the product, and I got to get it there, and people get excited about it. But I'll be out there a lot of times, and other fishermen that are like spot fishermen. My friend Jim Knight swung by this week, and he was like, I thought I was the only person crazy enough to be out here today. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty fucking crazy. He's like, I feel like I should give you a snorkel. I'm going back to the docks. This sucks. I'm like, I gotta fulfill my order. Right. And I'm also really specific with what I pull. Like, I'm not just pulling clusters or just any oyster, because legally an oyster has to be at least 3 inches to harvest it. But I'm looking for shapes, for thickness, for
So you got
specific
you're
product.
kind of grading them for your own specifications.
Yes.
And this is, again, not something that you're you're not going out there like, I mean, there's people that do aquaculture where like there's some oysters that I used to be able to get from the West Coast that, you know, they do a certain thing the way that they raise them so that way they kind of cup,
Yep.
they get deeper and hold a lot of brine.
They're
These are
gorgeous.
Yeah, but these are ones that you have to just kind of go like, you're cute, you're not.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, and I get more specific like each season just because when you have good ones, you're like, why would I want anything less, or why would I want to sell anything less? So
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
You're
cut you
fine.
off. So, but when you pick up an oyster and you look at it, and you can you assess what the flavor should be like based on what you're seeing?
I don't assess flavor by sight of the oyster shell. I assess it by location. So, like when I go fishing at Masonboro, I make sure that I go deep enough towards beds that are closest to the ocean. And there's some spots where, like right at the jetty at Wrightsville Beach in Masonboro, the ocean water just floods the ICW, and they're just going to be so salty and delicious. And if I go closer to Carolina Beach, the water's a little murkier. Even the mussels taste different. Masonboro is truly my favorite spot to harvest, without a doubt. And thank goodness it's big.
Right. So I guess my question though, when you're looking at them visually, what are you assessing then at that point?
So I look for with the 3 inches, the legality of the 3 inches. But I love that cup. And I used to break up a lot of oysters. I used to cluster bust them, but now I'm getting better at picking up just rock oysters that are just waiting to be plucked along the oyster beds, like right on the edges.
Rock oysters are solo oysters?
Yeah. So instead of breaking them up and potentially cracking other ones or killing other ones, they're sitting there already broken off, or maybe there's like 2 or 3. But I like I love a deep oyster. And then at the tip, it's got to have, I'm probably saying that wrong, at the tip of the oyster. The shell can't get really thin, because then it just breaks apart. And then if you're doing all season raw oysters, you're going to have a shelly oyster. Yeah. And I find that the Masonboro ones are really easier to open. They're just,
So tell me a little bit about being in New York when you were 13 to 17 on your own, because that can mean a lot of different things. Like, you know, I emancipated young from my parents so I could go off and do things, but you were working as a child performer, basically, right?
Acting and modeling. I had several agents up there, innovative artists, about-face models. I was a Ford for 1 summer, but then I was just too average looking. I was too American. They're like, we need something with little diversity. It was really funny. I was like, that's whatever. Anyway, so I was auditioning every single day. I'd wake up in the morning and get a call from my agent, and they'd be like, you need to be here at this time. So I didn't know the city at all. I would look at the map and then go to the audition and come home, and sometimes get it, sometimes not. And I made enough money that I could live. And after going on tour, that hooked me up for the first summer. It was just a constant. My mom used to call me Little Miss Second Place. Anytime I wouldn't get it, she's like, it's okay, you're just Little Miss Second Place. It's gonna happen one day.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I'm not getting anything out of this. I feel, again, working with superficial people, being fake, not being myself, which is when you're behind a bar also, you're not yourself.
Right.
Like, you can be, but you make more money if you're not. Like, if you are happy every day, which is not real, people are like, oh my God, they're so great. She's so happy all the time. I love going there, but it's not a real thing. Which is, again, why fishing is so awesome, because I can be like, well, today fucking sucked, but that's all right, because it's in my hands and it's just the way it is. But my first restaurant job was a bus girl at an Oriental restaurant in Kentucky. And I was really good at it. But because I was living in New York City and thinking about saving money for the city and thinking about being skinny enough to be a model, like I was just like not eating.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I fainted down the stairs with the bus tub one day, and they're like, my mom didn't even see it then, and I was like, it's fine. So I don't know if that's also part of it is enjoying food so much now, because I eat whatever the fuck I want.
Did that get into your head? Because I know some people that I've known personally that have been, worked that profession, and it's created a lot created for them.
Absolutely. I still have problems, but
that's
I'm
what I'm
eating
saying.
now.
Yeah.
All.
So it did give you, it created some of those issues.
Absolutely. Eating cotton balls to stay full, or iceberg lettuce and a Diet Coke is like your meal.
Right.
But I was skinny, so I was pretty. And that's so not pretty to me anymore. I feel
Right.
pretty muddy. Like, I put mascara on for this today, but if you catch me on a normal day, no makeup, there's probably still mud on me somewhere. Not that I'm unclean, but like, you know, I'm doing it so often.
Right.
So fishing has totally turned my world around to a much happier, healthier spot. I love it. And now I can go eat good food in New York City instead
Right.
of being like, oh man.
These are fresh North Carolina ribbed mussels. They are so good. They are a lot earthier and more briny than PEI mussels, which tend to be smaller and smoother and sweeter.
So your social media, you frame things well, you put out a great story, and you also are aware of what helps sell your product, and you are
Absolutely.
part of your product. So now you've got this interesting dichotomy going on where it's like you've had this life as, you know, being in front of the camera and having to be perfect and all these other things, and you also sort of, you know, are comfortable.
Still on camera.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
comfortable in your own skin, but you recognize that your skin can help sell and your story and your narrative.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
But also, it's because you're comfortable in it.
Right.
And you've taken some shit from people
Yeah. Yeah.
for being in a bikini.
I know, it's so silly.
Right.
I'm like, you come out here and work in 98 degrees in the marsh and try and wear anything else. It was pretty silly.
It's, to me, sort of ridiculous that this has got to be part of your story
Yeah.
that we have. But
It's fine.
But the thing is, it's an important part because this is something that I think some of our viewers may never have considered.
Right.
You know, the
Yeah.
implications of all of the shit, all the politics, personal politics that come into play with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just women having to hide their body in general is.
I mean, could you wear something else? Sure, but who the fuck, like,
Yeah, I had a lot of competitors say like the only reason she can sell any kind of fish is because she wears a bikini. I'm like, dude, that's only like 4 or 5 months out of the year, and I don't like berate people's doors. I let sales happen organically, and with passionate, talented people that I want to work with. But yeah, it was so funny to get all that flack for being comfortable and cool in the marsh. Because all summer long, I take swim breaks. That marsh gets so hot. And the water that's back there during the summer is like bath water. So if you just get in that little bit, you're just like, this still sucks. It's still hot. So then you go swimming and you gotta wear a bikini, and it's just the most comfortable, I
these are
guess.
the same guys that are going to be buying Sports Illustrated swimwear as you.
Hell yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's-
Absolutely. And if I didn't post it, they'd be like, man, I wish you post like a bikini shot.
It's, yeah.
It's really, it's so funny. It's so funny. But I don't have to interact with them in person, so it's fine. And it didn't really like affect me.
Did you have to have that inner conversation with yourself before you started posting up there, being in business for yourself, going like, what does this represent?
Right.
What does this mean?
I just want to represent a woman being comfortable in her own body. And I think we should be able to wear whatever the fuck we want. Sorry, am I not supposed to cuss on this
No. Have you not seen one of our episodes?
thing? Okay, all right. I just making sure.
Usually
No,
it's me.
It's like, why do I need to worry? And for the first time in my life, I feel good about my body. So why not?
Sun feels good.
Anna,
Mark,
thanks for coming out and meeting us here today.
thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your story.
Camera 1, camera 2.
At this point, I like to
Three,
imagine.
four.
I like to imagine the credits are rolling.
Your breath smells like garlic. It doesn't, but you know.
Well, I'm not surprised you can smell it with a nose that big.
Yeah, totally.
I've always wanted the Anchorman ending, and you were the person to give it to me. Thank you.
Human Torch.
Woo.
Hell yeah. Swallow again.
Unique. New York.
The arsonist had oddly shaped feet.